Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsy69. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to take a look at the Object 140. Yes, the 140. I've been a little bit unfair on the 140 in the past, to be honest, and more because I was frustrated because this used to be one of the most played tanks in the game. It was completely in meta when I first started the game. It was in meta. Everybody was playing the 140 and the IS-7, but then Wargaming decided to give the T62 some love, and more love, and then more love, and they've just ignored the 140, and that's where I was a little bit frustrated because they're almost the same tank. They are almost pretty much identical. There's a few things about them, but I have been unfair on the 140 because it is still a good tank. It is still a good tank. And some people out there still prefer the 140 over the T62. I don't know why, and I don't know how, but yeah, they do. There's some really good players that prefer the 140 over the T62. Now, the 140 stats, the turret armor is 240, but for me that's pretty much the weakest part of the tank is the turret, whereas you got the T62, very strong turret. Now I really don't mind that because I don't want the Object 140 to be exactly the same as the T62 because there's no point. There's no point. And in my last video, I pretty much said, what's the point of the 140? What is the point in playing the 140 if you have a T62? Now, you can see Wargaming now changing up tanks. So you've got the VK72 getting the tungsten shells, so it plays different to the E100. Why don't they do something like that with the 140? Why don't they give it something like the tungsten shells? Whether that would be too OP or not, I don't know, but give it something. Maybe not the tungsten shells, but something different, because they've just gave the T62 so much love and they've ignored the 140. Now, the 140 could be classed as sort of more of a brawler. It's more of a brawler than the T62. The hull is actually, on paper, less hull armor, but you can get more bounces on your hull than you can on the T62. Now, the DPM, still fantastic, one of the highest DPMs in tier 10, and that's what makes it such a good brawler. And if you're face-hugging tanks and side-hugging tanks, you will be able to get some bounces in this thing. Now, this has 7 degrees of gun depression. This has 6 degrees of gun depression, whereas the T62 has 7. I would, again, probably, because of the turret armor of the T62, I would have swapped that around. So I would have gave the T62 6 degrees and the Object 140 7 degrees. But it is what it is. Aim time, really good at 2.5, and the dispersion, still good at 0.317. Not as good as the T62, but it's still pretty decent. So I went to play the 140 because, you know, I haven't played it in a while, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and play it. I like the tank. I still like the tank. If you like the T62, you're still going to like the Object 140. It is just that the T62 has got more love, and the 140's not been touched in such a long time. Wargaming have buffed all the other medium tanks. They've literally almost everything around it, but not this. How would you, I mean, what do you think? I'd like to know, because there's so many different opinions on the 140. I personally don't drive the tank no more, even though it's a great tank, but I don't drive it because I just do sit there and think, why drive the 140 when I could just drive the T62? I can hold down, I've got the accuracy, I've got the aim time, I've got the DPM. Why drive the Object 140 when you haven't got the turret armor, you haven't got the gun depression that the T62 has got? Now here, I noob out. I completely noob out. I didn't quite see them guys there. But you're going to see in a minute, like, different angles. Like, when you're at a certain angle, then you can still get bounces on your hull. Now, we're going to luckily bounce the Jaegeru there. Very lucky bounce indeed. And that literally just saved our life. Can't quite see where he hit me. I think it was just on the tracks. I'm not quite sure. But it's still a brawling tank, and it still can go and perform on the battlefield. Just because, in my opinion, the T62 is better doesn't mean that you can't perform well in this tank. It still has that fantastic DPM, but for me, the T62 is more sort of sit behind, farm up the team, farm up the damage. You can play it from distance because it has the accuracy. This is definitely more of a brawling tank, so get up close and dirty to the enemy team and just bully them. And that's what I've been doing. That is what I've been doing. That's what I tried to do here, which I completely misunderestimated the enemy team. Didn't think they was all here, and I get deleted. And I'm just left with 300 hit points. And now it's a 4 versus 4, and hence why I'm going the long way round, because it's a 4 versus 4. Fair enough, all 3 of my heavies are full hit points, but they still have 2 tanks that are full hit points as well. So I'm not taking anything for granted. I'm trying to pick them out one by one, and I noticed that the VK72 is isolated. The Yag Tiger's not looking at me, so I'm just going to bully this guy and he gets gone, and then we can now bully the Yag Tiger, and that is what this tank can do. It can still bully, just like all the other tanks around it, like the T62, the Object 907, the T22. It can still do the same kind of thing, but in my opinion, it's probably the worst out of the lot of them. There's 4 tanks that are all very, very similar. And I would probably go as far as to say this is the worst out of the bunch of them. The Object 907, people could probably say that's maybe the worst. But honestly, I like the 907. It has the speed. And that's what pays that for me. That's what makes the difference. Now, we are going to go and win this game, but you can see we messed up at the start, but yet we still managed to get ourselves 4.3k damage. Very, very easy. Now, if you think that game was easy to pump up that damage, you wait till you see this game. Now, this is probably one of the easiest games I have had in a very, very long time. If you remember the SP1C video that I did, and I titled it, easiest game ever, where I was like a 1 versus 5 or 1 versus 6, and I just capped the bases and I won on supremacy points. A 1 versus 5 and I win on supremacy points. Yeah, this is almost as easy. We're not going to win on supremacy points. We're going to do the damage, but the enemy, I mean, the enemy have I think it's 153% player. The rest are all below 40, about 45%. Yeah, and my team has about 3 or 4 50% players. Matchmaking working at its finest this game. So me and this guy here, now I'm looking, when I play the game, I always look at the enemy, the tanks, and I'm looking here with my T100, and I'm always looking, right, so there's me and the T100, and there's 2 medium tanks. So if the 2 medium tanks come here, can we comfortably deal with them? Because one of them is the Progetto and one of them is the TVP. Now, if them guys worked well together, they could focus fire. Excuse me. They could focus fire and they could take us out very, very easy. But considering the Progetto's in the middle and considering the TVP is up there, yeah, that's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. GG TVP. And that's him down. And now, because that is him down, the Jaegeru is there, the E4 is there. I'm just missing 1 tank destroyer, and that is where I make the decision to push forward and around to their cap. Because, I mean, there's 1 tank destroyer missing, which is the FE4005. Now, I'm quite comfortable dealing with the FE4005 if I run into him. And as I come around the corner, look who is going to be here. It is the FE4005. So, of course, we're winning. I'm going to focus him. He's not AFK. He's just sitting at the back farm, trying to farm. Now, that's not a bad position. That is the position he was at is actually not a bad position. But when you get caught out in that position, I mean, there's nothing this guy can do. There's nothing he can do. With my DPM going up to over 4,000 now because of the HE, there is nothing this guy can do. Now, I'm going to pause it there because people will call him a noob. But he was just behind this rock. And if you look over sort of where my green team is, he has shots there. He has shots, and that is actually a very good position to be in if you have support. If his medium tanks would have gone right, then that would have been a very good position for him, because he could go with his mobility to help his mediums, or he could stay there and farm up on the heavies. But unfortunately for him, he just gets caught out. Now, 2.5 minutes into the game, there's only 3 tanks left alive. I don't know what this FE215B is doing, but I mean, I am just completely farming up this damage, and there he goes. So not even 3 minutes down, and there's just 2 tanks left. I don't even care at this point. I don't care about my hit points. I've got enough hit points, and I've got enough DPM to deal with these guys. And there goes the Jaegeru, just leaving the mouse, and because of his position, I can just again completely farm him. We're going to bring him down to a 1-shot, and then someone is going to kill him, and I end him full hit points. Easy as that. And that was 4.7k damage. So yes, the enemy was noobs. But that battle just goes to show that it can still perform on the battlefield. Just because there's other tanks around it that is better, that is the better choice, like the T62, like the T20, like the T22, like the Object 907, the Object 140. I still think needs a little bit of love. I do think it needs something that is different to the T62 and the other tanks around. And I wish Wargaming did give it a bit more love. I wish they did give it a bit more love. Whether that would be more hull armor. I don't mind having a weak turret, but maybe a little bit more hull armor. So you've got a T62 that's useless with the hull, but fantastic turret, and then you've got the Object 140 that's useless with the turret, but a fantastic hull. That would be perfect, absolutely perfect. Let me know your thoughts on the Object 140. Do you like it how it is? Do you still play it? Would you pick this over the T62? And if you would, let me know why. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I'm meadsy69, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye-bye. With